Millionaire freezes when he sees Triplets abandoned on a road holding his photo. You are our dad. Before we get into it, let's make this moment global. Leave a comment in your own language. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dusty Montana road as Jack Thompson's luxury SUV hummed along the quiet countryside. His knuckles whitened slightly around the steering wheel, the only visible sign of the tension he carried from years of high-pressure business dealings. At 38, he had everything money could buy, yet the emptiness inside him had grown with each corporate triumph. Just a few more miles, he muttered to himself, checking the GPS coordinates of the farmhouse he had purchased sight unseen last month, a sanctuary from the relentless pace of his tech empire. The road ahead shimmered in the heat when something unusual caught his eye. 3 small figures walking alongside the rural highway, their silhouettes nearly identical against the golden landscape. No adults in sight. No houses nearby. Jack slowed the vehicle, curiosity overriding his typically cautious nature. 3 children, identical in almost every way, turned to watch his approach with a mixture of wariness and hope in their eyes. He pulled over and rolled down his window. "Are you kids all right? Where are your parents?" Jack called out, noticing their well-worn clothes and tired expressions. The 3 little faces, 2 boys and a girl, he now realized, stared back at him with the same startling, green eyes that matched his own. They appeared to be about 5 years old, with sun-kissed hair and expressions far too serious for children their age. One of the boys took a protective step in front of his siblings. "We're okay," he said with practiced composure. The little girl, however, was studying Jack's face with intense concentration. She reached into her small backpack and withdrew a crumpled photograph. "Are you our daddy?" she asked suddenly, her voice trembling with hope as she held up the photo. Jack's world tilted on its axis. The photograph showed a younger version of himself with his arms wrapped around a woman he hadn't seen in nearly 8 years, Sarah Mitchell, his college sweetheart, who had disappeared from his life without warning or explanation. His throat constricted as he studied the 3 small faces more carefully. The same dimple in their left cheeks when they frowned. The same shaped eyebrows. And then, his heart nearly stopped. He noticed the small scar cutting through the right eyebrow of one of the boys, identical to the one Jack had carried since a childhood accident. "What? What are your names?" he managed to ask, his voice barely audible. "I'm Emma," the little girl said. "This is Ethan." She pointed to the protective boy with the scarred eyebrow. "And that's Evan." Jack stepped out of the car on unsteady legs, kneeling to their level. "Where's your mother? Where's Sarah?" The children exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them that spoke of a connection only identical triplets could share. "Mommy went to heaven," Emma finally whispered, tears filling her eyes. 2 weeks ago, Aunt Melissa said, "We had to stay with her now, but Ethan found Mommy's special box with your pictures and address. We ran away," Ethan added, lifting his chin defiantly. "Aunt Melissa said you didn't want us, but Mommy always told us our daddy was a good man who built important things all over the world." Jack's mind reeled with implications. Sarah had died. These 3 children, triplets with his eyes, his features, had been living without him for 5 years, and they had walked who knows how far to find him. "I never knew," he whispered, more to himself than to the children. "I never knew about you." The second boy, Evan, who had remained silent until now, took a tentative step forward and touched Jack's cheek with small fingers. "Are you sad?" he asked with unexpected gentleness. Jack hadn't realized he was crying until that moment. 8 years of questions about why Sarah had left. 5 years of a family he never knew existed. And now, 3 little souls standing on a dusty road, looking at him with equal parts hope and fear. "I'm not sad," Jack said, finding his voice at last. "I'm just surprised and very, very happy to meet you." The triplets watched him carefully, weighing his words like much older souls. "Will you take us home with you?" Emma asked, clutching her precious photograph. Jack looked into 3 pairs of eyes that mirrored his own and felt something shift permanently in his universe. Yes, he answered, making a promise to them, and to himself. I'm taking you home. The farmhouse felt suddenly small as Jack ushered the triplets inside, his mind racing with questions he couldn't voice. He watched as the children huddled together on his leather couch, their identical green eyes taking in the half-unpacked boxes and sparse furnishings of his new home. Are you hungry? He asked, realizing he had no idea what 5-year-olds ate. 3 solemn nods answered him. While heating some soup he'd thankfully purchased during his last grocery run, Jack made a critical call. Michael, I need your help, he said quietly into his phone, moving to the hallway. It's urgent. Michael Benson had been Jack's personal assistant for 6 years, the closest thing to a friend the workaholic businessman allowed himself. His loyalty was unwavering, his discretion absolute. I need everything you can find on Sarah Mitchell, her life for the past 8 years, her death certificate, and anything about triplets. Jack's voice cracked on the last word. After settling the children with food, Jack observed them with wonder and trepidation. They ate with the careful manners of children who'd been taught to be grateful for what they received. When Evan struggled with his spoon, Emma automatically steadied his hand. An intimate gesture born from years of connection Jack had missed entirely. Later that night, after improvising beds from blankets and cushions, Jack sat in the dim kitchen while 3 small bodies slept in his guest room. He opened his laptop and began his own search, fingers trembling as he typed Sarah's name. The local newspaper's obituary was brutally simple. Sarah Mitchell, 36, died in a single-vehicle accident on County Road 18. She is survived by her triplets and sister, Melissa Reynolds. Jack closed his eyes against the pain. Sarah, vibrant, brilliant Sarah, was gone forever, without him ever knowing why she'd disappeared from his life. His phone buzzed with Michael's text. Information incoming. Death verified. Children's birth certificates list father as unknown. Temporary custody granted to sister 2 weeks ago. Unknown. The word cut through Jack like a knife. Why hadn't Sarah told him? What happened 8 years ago to separate them so completely? Jack moved to the guest room doorway, watching the triplets sleep. In the moonlight, Ethan's scar, identical to Jack's own childhood injury, seemed to glow silver against his skin. The coincidence was too profound to dismiss. He retreated to his bedroom and dug through unpacked moving boxes until he found a weathered shoebox. Inside lay dozens of letters he'd written to Sarah after she vanished. Letters full of questions, declarations of love, and eventually, reluctant goodbyes. Letters he'd never sent, having nowhere to send them. Dawn found Jack still awake, watching the sunrise paint Montana's hills golden. Michael's final message of the night confirmed an address just 15 miles away, the home where Sarah had raised their children while Jack built empires, unaware of their existence. A soft sound made him turn. Emma stood in the doorway, clutching her tattered teddy bear. Are you really going to keep us? She asked, her voice small but direct. Jack knelt to her level, meeting eyes so like his own. I'm not going anywhere, he promised, the words forming a vow he hadn't known he needed to make. Today we're going to your house to get your things. Would that be okay? Emma nodded gravely. Mommy kept all your pictures in her special box. She said you didn't know where to find us. Jack's heart constricted. I would have looked for you, if I'd known, he whispered, wondering what truths and lies awaited him in Sarah's home, and what secrets Melissa Reynolds might be hiding. As the other triplets stirred, Jack steeled himself for the day ahead. Somewhere between yesterday and today, finding the truth had become the second most important thing in his life. The first was protecting these 3 children who, against all odds, had found their way to him. The modest blue house at the end of Pine Creek Road told a story Jack wasn't prepared for. Children's bicycles with training wheels leaned against the porch. A handmade wind chime tinkled in the breeze. This was no temporary dwelling. This was a home built over years. That's our house, Evan whispered from the back seat, his voice a mixture of excitement and grief. Using the spare key Emma had tucked in her teddy bear, Jack unlocked the front door. The triplets rushed inside, their familiarity with the space a sharp contrast to Jack's hesitant steps. The living room walls displayed a carefully curated timeline of the children's lives. First steps, birthdays, preschool graduations, moments Jack should have witnessed. His throat tightened as he realized how completely he had been erased from their narrative. "Mommy's room is this way," Emma announced, tugging his hand. Jack followed her down a narrow hallway lined with the children's artwork. Sarah's bedroom was simple but warm, with faded floral curtains and a well-worn quilt. Jack stood frozen in the doorway, overwhelmed by her lingering presence. The faint scent of lavender, a book still open on the nightstand. "She kept your pictures in here," Ethan said, pointing to a small wooden chest at the foot of the bed. Inside, Jack found a collection that shattered his understanding of the past 8 years. Photographs of him and Sarah from college, newspaper clippings about his business successes, and most disturbingly, a stack of envelopes addressed to him and Sarah's handwriting, all marked "Return to sender, address unknown." "Impossible," he murmured, examining the envelopes. He'd lived in the same Seattle penthouse for the past decade. His address had never changed. Beneath the envelopes lay a leather-bound journal. Jack hesitated, then opened it to an entry dated 5 years ago. "The triplets are 1 month old today. The doctor says Evan's heart murmur bears watching. I wish I could tell Jack. I've tried reaching him again, but his number is disconnected, and my letters come back. Melissa says I should stop trying, that he's made his choice clear by ignoring us. But that doesn't sound like the Jack I knew." Jack's hands trembled as he flipped to a more recent entry. "I saw Jack on TV today, accepting an award for innovation. The triplets were fascinated by the man who looks like Ethan. I tell them stories about their father building important things that help people. I can't bear to tell them he didn't want us. Maybe someday I'll learn why he turned away when I needed him most." A knock at the open front door interrupted Jack's reading. An elderly woman peered inside. "I thought I saw Sarah's children," she said, her eyes widening when she spotted Jack. "Oh, you must be the father. The resemblance is remarkable." "Mrs. Winters," Emma exclaimed, running to hug the woman. "This is our daddy. He found us, the bee." Neighbor studied Jack carefully. Sarah was a wonderful mother. Worked double shifts at Memorial Hospital to give these little ones everything they needed. Always by herself, poor dear. "Did she ever mention why? Why I wasn't in the picture?" Jack asked cautiously. Mrs. Winters frowned. "She said there'd been a misunderstanding. That her sister delivered news of the pregnancy, but you weren't interested in being involved." She lowered her voice. "Between us, I never quite believed it. Sarah kept trying to contact you for years, even showed me letters she'd written that always came back undelivered." As Mrs. Winters excused herself, Jack's mind raced with implications. The pieces didn't fit unless. "Did Aunt Melissa get our mail sometimes?" he asked the triplets. Ethan nodded. "She brought us stuff while Mommy was at work. She said she was protecting us." Jack carefully packed Sarah's journal and the returned envelopes. Whatever web of deception had kept him from his children was beginning to unravel, and Melissa Reynolds appeared to be at its center. The Blue Water Grill was the most upscale restaurant in the small Montana town, its lakeside views and white tablecloths offering a veneer of sophistication. Jack had chosen it deliberately, arranging for Michael to watch the triplets at the farmhouse while he met with Melissa Reynolds. He spotted her immediately, a slender woman in a crisp navy pantsuit, her resemblance to Sarah limited to the shape of her eyes. Where Sarah's expression had always been open and warm, Melissa's features were arranged in practiced composure. "Thank you for meeting me," Jack said, sliding into the seat across from her. Melissa's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I've been trying to locate my niece and nephews for 2 days. Imagine my surprise when I received your call." "They found me on their own," Jack replied evenly, walking along Route 16 with a photograph in hope. Her perfectly manicured fingers tightened around her water glass. "You have no legal right to them. The court granted me temporary custody." "Because I was listed as unknown on their birth certificates," Jack countered, keeping his voice calm despite the anger simmering below the surface. "Why is that, Melissa? When Sarah clearly knew exactly who I was?" A flicker of unease crossed her face before she recovered. Sarah made her choices. She decided raising the children alone was preferable to begging an unwilling father to acknowledge them. Jack placed Sarah's journal on the table between them. "That's not what Sarah wrote here. She documented years of attempts to contact me. Letters that mysteriously returned and calls that never connected." Melissa's laugh was brittle. "And you believe you're completely blameless? The successful tech mogul too busy building his empire to notice the woman carrying his children had disappeared?" "I searched for her," Jack said quietly. "Hired investigators. Called her parents until they changed their number. They told me she wanted nothing more to do with me." "My parents always protected Sarah's choices," Melissa replied, a hint of bitterness seeping through her poised exterior. Jack leaned forward. "The Triplets mentioned you collected their mail sometimes. Mrs. Winters said you delivered news of the pregnancy to me, news I never received. The letters Sarah wrote were returned from an address I've had for over a decade." Color drained from Melissa's face. "You have no proof of anything." "Not yet," Jack agreed. "But I've already filed for emergency custody on grounds of biological paternity, with a DNA test scheduled tomorrow. My legal team is investigating how my contact information mysteriously changed in Sarah's phone and address book." Melissa's composure cracked. "You weren't good enough for her. You would have held her back with your obsessive ambitions. I was protecting my sister. By destroying her chance at a complete family." Jack's voice remained low, but intensity burned in every word. "By denying my children their father? By lying to Sarah for years? Those children have been perfectly fine without you," Melissa hissed. "What can you possibly offer them now? Weekend visits to your corporate offices? Nannies and boarding schools?" The genuine concern beneath her manipulation gave Jack pause. "I can offer them the truth," he said finally, "and the chance to know their father." Melissa stood abruptly, gathering her designer purse. "This isn't over, Jack. I've been there for every fever, every nightmare, every milestone. You're a stranger to them." "A stranger you deliberately created," Jack replied, remaining seated. "Why, Melissa? Was it jealousy, control, or something else?" Her expression hardened. "You have 3 days with them before our court date. Enjoy playing daddy while you can. Those children belong with family, real family." As she strode away, Jack sat motionless, her parting words echoing. She was right about one thing. He was still a stranger to his own children. But the journal in his hands and the triplets waiting at the farmhouse were proof that some bonds transcended time and deception. His phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "DNA lab technician arrived. Kids. Asking when you'll be back for promised pancake dinner." Jack smiled despite the weight on his shoulders. He had 3 days to become more than a stranger to his children, and a lifetime to make up for lost time. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as Jack flipped pancakes, hyper-aware of 3 identical pairs of eyes watching his every move. Despite their physical sameness, he was beginning to recognize the triplets' distinct personalities. Ethan perched at the counter, observing with analytical focus, as if cataloging Jack's movements for future reference. Emma chattered enthusiastically about the pancake shapes, suggesting improvements with the confidence of someone accustomed to being heard. Evan sat slightly apart, quietly sketching on a paper napkin, occasionally glancing up with shy curiosity. "Who wants to explore the farm today?" Jack asked, sliding star-shaped pancakes onto their plates. "Are there animals?" Emma asked immediately. Jack smiled. "Not yet, but there's a pond, an apple orchard, and a big red barn we could fix up together." The day unfolded in a series of small discoveries. Jack showed them the sprawling property, answering Emma's rapid-fire questions while noting how Ethan maintained a careful distance, evaluating this new father figure with guarded eyes. By the pond, Jack taught them to skip stones across the water. Evan's stone sank immediately, his shoulders slumping in disappointment. Watch, Jack said gently, guiding Evan's small hand through the motion. It's all in the wrist. When Evan's next stone skipped twice, his face lit up with a smile so like Sarah's that Jack's breath caught. For lunch, Jack spread a blanket beneath a massive oak tree, unpacking the sandwiches he'd prepared, each cut differently to help him learn their preferences. Emma devoured her triangular pieces enthusiastically, while Ethan methodically inspected his rectangular sections before eating. Evan carefully removed the crusts from his dinosaur-shaped portions, arranging them in a pattern before taking a bite. "Can we make paper airplanes?" Emma asked, pointing to Jack's notepad. Soon the air was filled with white gliders as Jack demonstrated different folding techniques. Emma's competitive spirit drove her to throw farther than her brothers. Ethan focused on perfecting his folds for maximum distance. Evan created elaborate designs, more concerned with aesthetics than flight capability. The afternoon stretched into a golden haze of childhood simplicity, cloud watching, tree climbing, with Jack's protective hands never far away, and impromptu races across the open field. The moment everything changed came unexpectedly. Running toward the house, Evan tripped and fell hard on the gravel driveway. His startled cry sent Jack rushing to his side. "Let me see," Jack said softly, examining the scraped knee with gentle fingers. Tears welled in Evan's eyes, but he bit, his lip trying to be brave. Jack carried him inside, setting him carefully on the bathroom counter while retrieving the first aid kit. "My mom used to blow on scrapes," Jack shared, cleaning the wound tenderly. "She said it chased the hurt away." He demonstrated with a soft breath across the injury. "Our mom did that too," Evan whispered, his first direct conversation with Jack. Jack applied a colorful bandage, then pressed a light kiss above it, a gesture instinctive and ancient. "Better?" Evan nodded, his eyes wide with something like wonder. That evening, as Jack read a bedtime story in the living room, he noticed Ethan watching him over the top of a different book. When the story ended and Emma danced off to brush her teeth, Ethan approached, his small face serious. "Are you going to stay?" he asked, the directness of his question belying his 5 years. Jack set aside the storybook. "Yes, Ethan, I'm going to stay." "Forever?" The boy's voice held the wariness of someone who'd already lost too much. "Forever," Jack promised, understanding the weight of this covenant. "I'm your dad, and I'm not going anywhere." Ethan studied him for a long, evaluating moment before offering his hand, a formal adult gesture that broke Jack's heart and mended it simultaneously. "Okay," Ethan decided, his tiny fingers gripping Jack's with surprising strength. As the triplets finally settled into sleep, Jack sat between their beds, watching their identical, peaceful faces. In just one day, these 3 small humans had reordered his universe, shifting priorities he'd thought immovable. Tomorrow would bring DNA tests, legal battles, and confrontations with the past. But tonight, in the quiet farmhouse under Montana stars, Jack Thompson had found something he never knew he'd lost. "This won't hurt at all," Dr. Winters assured, smiling at the triplets lined up on Jack's sofa. "Just a little swab inside your cheek, like brushing your teeth." Jack had arranged for the DNA testing to be done at the farmhouse, wanting to spare the children another unfamiliar environment. Dr. Winters, Mrs. Winters' son and the town's most trusted physician, had agreed to oversee the procedure personally. "It's just a special health check," Jack had explained to the triplets that morning, choosing words they could understand without burdening them with adult complexities. Emma went first, treating the procedure like an adventure. "Does this tell you I'm super strong?" she asked the doctor. Dr. Winters winked. "It tells us all about what makes you special." Ethan watched his sister carefully before allowing his own cheek to be swabbed, his serious eyes never leaving Jack's face. Evan hesitated until Jack knelt beside him. "Would it help if I go first?" he offered. Evan nodded, visibly relaxing as he watched Jack undergo the same simple procedure. When his turn came, he opened his mouth bravely. "Perfect," Dr. Winters praised, labeling the final sample. "You 3 are excellent patients. While the triplets were distracted by the cartoon Jack had queued up, Dr. Winters pulled him aside. "The rush processing will have results back in 48 hours, he said quietly. "But Jack, speaking as someone who delivered these children, there's no doubt in my mind. They're yours," Jack's lawyer called as the doctor was leaving. Judge Parker granted temporary custody pending the DNA results. Ms. Reynolds is contesting vigorously, but given the circumstantial evidence and the children's current location with you, it's looking favorable. The news brought temporary relief, but the weight of Sarah's journal entries still pressed heavily on Jack's mind. That evening, after tucking the triplets in, he returned to the worn leather book. The pages chronicled Sarah's life as a single mother, her joy in the triplets' milestones alongside her struggles with finances and Evan's health concerns. Entries about Jack appeared throughout, revealing her continued belief that he had rejected them. Sent another letter today. Returned. Again. I don't understand why he won't even read them. The Jack I knew would never abandon his children no matter what. And later, Melissa says I should stop torturing myself, that some men aren't meant to be fathers. But when I look at Ethan's expressions, so like Jack's, I can't help wondering what went wrong. The most recent entry, dated just weeks before, her death made Jack's blood run cold. Found a strange box in Melissa's guest room while picking up the children. Letters addressed to Jack, my letters hidden away. Could she have? No, my own sister wouldn't do that to me. To the triplets. I need to think. The entry ended abruptly, with no resolution. Had Sarah confronted Melissa? Had she planned to reach out to Jack directly? The accident had silenced those questions forever. A small sound from the hallway pulled Jack from his thoughts. Emma stood in the doorway clutching her teddy bear. "I can't sleep," she whispered. "I keep thinking about Mommy." Jack set the journal aside and opened his arms. Emma climbed onto his lap, her small body fitting against his chest as if designed to be there. "Your mom was very brave," Jack said softly, "and she loved you three more than anything." "She had a special box with your pictures," Emma confided. "She said you build important things that help people." Jack swallowed hard. "I try to. But nothing I've ever built is as important as you, Ethan, and Evan." Emma studied him with eyes too old for her 5 years. "Aunt Melissa said you didn't want us. But that's not true, is it? You just didn't know." "I didn't know," Jack confirmed, his voice rough with emotion. "If I had, I would have been there for every single day of your lives." Emma nodded, satisfied with this answer. "Can I sleep in your room tonight, just this once?" Later, with Emma asleep beside him, Jack drafted emails to his executive team. For the first time in 15 years, Thompson Technologies would have to operate without his constant presence. There were decisions about schools to research, renovations to plan, and 3 young lives that needed stability more than he needed to attend board meetings. The DNA results were a formality. In his heart, Jack already knew. These were his children. And nothing, not Melissa, not the courts, not even his own empire, would keep him from them again. The small town of Pine Creek buzzed with whispers. At the grocery store, Jack noticed sidelong glances and abruptly halted conversations when he passed by with the triplets. At the hardware store, where he purchased supplies to childproof the farmhouse, the owner's smile seemed strained. "Folks talking about us?" Jack asked Mrs. Winters when she stopped by with a homemade casserole. The elderly woman sighed, settling into a kitchen chair while the triplets played in the living room. "Melissa's been busy, telling anyone who'll listen that you abandoned Sarah, only to swoop in now for some kind of inheritance." Jack laughed bitterly. "Sarah's estate consists of a mortgaged house and an 8-year-old sedan. Those who knew Sarah don't believe it," Mrs. Winters assured him. "But Melissa has lived here her whole life. She has connections." Those connections became apparent the next day when a local reporter called requesting comment on the custody battle between a workaholic tech CEO and the devoted aunt who helped raise the orphan triplets. Michael, who had extended his stay to help Jack navigate this new reality, intercepted most of the calls. "She's orchestrating a character assassination," he reported. "I've traced 3 different social media accounts posting about you, all linked to Melissa's IP address. Jack had expected legal challenges, but the campaign to turn the community against him was more insidious than anticipated. His lawyer called with more concerning news. "She's hired Blackwell Investigations to dig into your past," she informed him. "They're known for finding or manufacturing dirt. Your college girlfriends, business rivals, former employees. They'll interview anyone who might have an axe to grind." Jack was reviewing security footage from Sarah's house, installed after the triplets mentioned Melissa still had a key, when the doorbell rang. Melissa stood on his porch, immaculately dressed in a cream-colored suit that screamed old money. Despite the modest teacher's salary Jack's investigators had uncovered, court-mandated visitation, she announced, waving a document. 2 hours, supervised. The triplets greeted their aunt with mixed reactions. Emma offered a polite hello, but stayed near Jack. Ethan watched warily from the staircase. Only Evan approached her with a hug, though his eyes sought Jack's reassurance over Melissa's shoulder. Jack invited her to the living room where he could observe while giving them space. Michael positioned himself discreetly in the kitchen doorway, recording the interaction on Jack's instruction. Melissa had brought gifts, expensive electronic tablets that made Jack raise an eyebrow, considering her reported income. As the children explored the devices, she spoke to them in a honeyed voice just loud enough for Jack to hear. "Are you having fun playing house with your father?" she asked, emphasizing the last word strangely. "I've got your rooms all ready at my place for when you come home." "But we are home," Emma said, looking confused. Melissa smiled tightly. "This is just temporary, sweetheart. Your daddy is a very busy man. Soon he'll have to get back to his important work in Seattle, and you'll come live with me." Jack clenched his jaw but remained silent, watching Ethan's face cloud with doubt. "Are you going away?" Evan asked Jack directly, his voice trembling. "No," Jack answered firmly. "I'm not going anywhere." Melissa's smile sharpened. "That's what he thinks now. But men like your father don't change overnight. Your mother learned that the hard way." After she left, Jack spent hours reassuring the triplets, answering their confused questions with patient honesty. That night, he called Mrs. Winters again. "I need to understand Melissa better," he explained. "Sarah's journal suggests there was always tension between them, but this feels pathological." Mrs. Winters was silent for a moment. "Sarah was the favorite," she finally said. "Their parents doted on her, the pretty one, the kind one. Melissa was always in her shadow. Then there was the fertility issue." "Fertility issue?" "Melissa can't have children. Medical condition from her teens. It devastated her, especially when Sarah announced her pregnancy. Even worse when it turned out to be triplets." Later, Jack spoke with his lawyer about what he'd observed during the visitation. "She's deliberately trying to instill doubt in the children about my commitment to them." "Document everything," his lawyer advised. "And Jack, I hesitate to ask, but is there anything in your past she could use against you? Any scandals, affairs, questionable business practices?" Jack considered the question honestly. He'd built his company ethically, dated sparingly, and maintained a reputation for integrity that had helped secure government contracts. But like anyone, he'd made mistakes. "I've worked 80-hour weeks for 15 years, he admitted. "She'll use that to paint me as an absentee father, and she's not entirely wrong. I'm having to completely restructure my life to be the father these kids deserve." That night, as a mountain thunderstorm rolled across the valley, Jack found all 3 triplets huddled in his bed, frightened by the booming thunder. As he comforted them, smoothing hair from identical foreheads and whispering reassurances about the storm, Jack realized something profound. 2 weeks ago, he'd been alone in a penthouse overlooking Seattle, surrounded by awards and accolades, but disconnected from what actually mattered. Now he was sardined in a bed with 3 small bodies in a farmhouse that needed work, fighting a battle he hadn't anticipated, and he'd never felt more alive or purposeful. Melissa's campaign might damage his reputation, question his parenting abilities, even temporarily turn the community against him, but watching his children finally drift to sleep, secure in his protection despite the storm raging outside, Jack knew one absolute truth. Nothing and no one would separate him from his family again. The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as Jack flipped pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, Evan's latest fascination. The DNA results had arrived yesterday, confirming what Jack already knew in his heart: 99.99% probability of paternity. The triplets had celebrated with ice cream, understanding only that the special test meant they could stay with Jack. More maple syrup, please, Emma requested, her plate already swimming in sticky sweetness. Maybe just a little, Jack smiled, adding a modest drizzle. He noticed Evan hadn't touched his breakfast, instead pushing pieces around listlessly with his fork. His normally rosy cheeks seemed pale. "You feeling okay, buddy?" Jack asked, placing a gentle hand on Evan's forehead. "No fever." Evan nodded unconvincingly. "Just tired." Jack was making mental notes to research pediatricians when Evan suddenly slumped forward, his small body crumpling like a marionette with cut strings. "Evan!" Jack lunged, catching him before he hit the floor. The boy's body felt unnaturally limp, his breathing shallow. Emma screamed while Ethan stood frozen, his face a mask of terror. "Call 911, Jack shouted to Michael, who was already dialing. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and paramedics' calm voices contrasting with Jack's thundering heart. One moment he'd been making pancakes. The next, his son, was unconscious on a stretcher, an oxygen mask dwarfing his tiny face. At Pine Creek Memorial Hospital, a grim-faced doctor pulled Jack aside while nurses settled Evan in a pediatric room. "Mr. Thompson, your son has a congenital heart condition called tetralogy of Fallot," Dr. Ramirez explained. "It appears to have been partially treated with medication, but he needs more comprehensive care. Has he seen a cardiologist regularly?" Jack's mind raced back to Sarah's journal entries, the mentions of Evan's heart murmur, the notations about medication refills, the canceled specialist appointments due to cost. "His mother was managing it," Jack answered, his voice hollow. "I only recently gained custody after her death. I didn't know." The weight of those words, "I didn't know," had never felt heavier. "Doctor," Ramirez's expression softened. "The condition is treatable, especially when caught early, but Evan will need specialized care, possibly surgery." "Whatever he needs," Jack said immediately. "Cost is no object." While Evan underwent tests, Jack sat with Emma and Ethan in a private waiting room, trying to explain their brother's condition in terms they could understand. "Evan's heart needs some extra help," he told them gently. "The doctors are figuring out the best way to make it stronger." "Is he going to die like Mommy?" Ethan asked bluntly, his voice small but direct. Jack pulled both children onto his lap. "No. Evan is going to be fine because we caught this in time and because he has the best doctors helping him." The hospital doors slid open, and Jack looked up to see Melissa striding toward them, her heels clicking aggressively on the linoleum floor. "I heard what happened," she announced, her voice carrying across the waiting room. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." Jack stood, positioning himself between Melissa and the twins. "This isn't the time or place," he said quietly. "It's precisely the time," she countered. "A critical medical condition that you knew nothing about. A condition Sarah managed for 5 years that you couldn't handle for 2 weeks. Evan's been taking his medication regularly," Jack responded evenly. "The doctor said this episode could have happened any time. It's why he needs more advanced treatment." Melissa's eyes narrowed. "Treatment you know nothing about. I was there for every doctor's appointment, every midnight fever. I held Sarah's hand when they first diagnosed him." Before Jack could respond, Dr. Ramirez returned with preliminary results. Evan was stable but would need to remain hospitalized while they consulted with cardiology specialists. "Are you familiar with his medical history?" the doctor asked Melissa, after introductions. "Of course," she replied. "I've been helping care for him since birth." Sarah kept meticulous records. "Records I'd very much like to see," Jack interjected, since they weren't among her personal effects. A flicker of something crossed Melissa's face. "They're at my house. I organized all their medical information after the accident. While the Doctor continued updating them. Jack's lawyer called. He stepped away to answer. Jack, we've been reviewing Sarah's financial records. There's something you should know. She had multiple appointments scheduled with pediatric cardiologists in Seattle and Denver over the years, all canceled. Because of finances, Jack said, remembering the journal entries. That's what she believed. But the cancellations didn't come from her. They came from someone using her patient portal access, from an IP address matching Melissa's home internet. Jack felt his blood run cold. Are you saying? We're still investigating, but it appears Melissa may have been systematically canceling Evan's specialist appointments while telling Sarah they were too expensive or not covered by insurance. When Jack returned to the waiting room, he viewed Melissa through new eyes. Had her obsession with controlling her sister's life actually endangered Evan's health? As if sensing his thoughts, Melissa moved closer to Emma and Ethan, placing a proprietary hand on each child's shoulder. I should take them home while you deal with Evan. They shouldn't be in a hospital environment. They're staying with me, Jack stated firmly. Their brother is hospitalized. Their father, she infused the word with doubt, is clearly overwhelmed. This is exactly what the court should consider regarding their best interests. Jack met her gaze steadily. I've already contacted Children's Hospital in Denver. Their pediatric cardiac team is arranging transfer as soon as Evan is stable. Emma and Ethan will come with us. We're staying together as a family. Denver? Melissa's composure cracked. You can't take them out of state. Watch me, Jack replied quietly. My son needs specialized medical care, and I'm going to ensure he gets it, along with all the appointments he should have had years ago. As Melissa stalked away, Jack returned to the twins, holding them close. Beyond the immediate crisis of Evan's health lay disturbing questions about Melissa's actions. But those would wait. Right now, his children needed him present and focused, the father he was determined to become. Children's Hospital of Denver gleamed in the morning sunlight, its colorful architecture designed to comfort rather than intimidate. Jack had barely left Evan's bedside in the 3 days since their arrival, sleeping in a recliner while Emma and Ethan stayed at the adjacent Ronald McDonald house with Michael. Evan's prognosis was cautiously optimistic. The cardiac team had developed a treatment plan combining medication adjustments with a minimally invasive procedure scheduled for the following week. The chief cardiologist had been blunt. This should have been addressed years ago. He's lucky to have you advocating for him now. Jack was reviewing emails on his laptop. His executive team had been remarkably supportive of his abrupt paternal leave, when a soft knock interrupted his thoughts. A woman in her early 30s with warm brown eyes and a kindergarten teacher's patient smile stood in the doorway. Mr. Thompson? I'm Claire Bennett, the Triplets teacher from Pine Creek Elementary. Jack stood, surprised. You drove all this way? Claire stepped into the room, her gaze briefly resting on Evan's sleeping form. I came to deliver some get-well cards from his classmates and, she hesitated, to talk to you about Melissa Reynolds. Over coffee in the hospital cafeteria, Claire revealed what had brought her 4 hours from Pine Creek to Denver. Sarah would often cry after meetings with Melissa, she explained. Once, after a particularly bad argument, Sarah confided that Melissa had stolen her chance at happiness. I didn't understand what she meant until I saw you with the Triplets last week. Claire had been troubled by Melissa's version of events, the abandoned single mother, the suddenly interested father. It never matched the Sarah I knew. She spoke of the Triplets' father with sadness, not bitterness, like something had been taken from both of you. Jack leaned forward. Do you believe Melissa deliberately kept Sarah and me apart? I do now, Claire affirmed. When I heard about Evan's condition and Melissa's involvement with his medical care, pieces started falling into place. Sarah once mentioned trying to get a referral to a heart specialist, but Melissa convinced her the local doctor was sufficient. Sarah trusted her sister completely. Claire wasn't the only unexpected ally to emerge. That afternoon, Jack received a call from Principal Matthews of Pine Creek Elementary, offering to testify about the Triplets' positive adjustment to Jack's presence. The local pharmacist contacted Jack's lawyer, confirming that Melissa often picked up Evan's medications, claiming to deliver them to Sarah. Most surprisingly, Dr. James Peterson, who had been Sarah's obstetrician, requested a meeting via video call. "I tried to reach you when Sarah was pregnant," the silver-haired doctor explained, his expression grave. "She was devastated when you didn't respond to her messages. I suggested contacting you directly through mutual friends, but Melissa intervened, insisting she had already spoken with you personally. She claimed I didn't want to be involved," Jack surmised bitterly. Dr. Peterson nodded. "Melissa always accompanied Sarah to appointments, always spoke first, always managed communications. I found it concerning, but patient confidentiality limited my options." By evening, Jack's legal team had assembled a comprehensive timeline of Melissa's interference, intercepted letters, canceled medical appointments, manipulated perceptions, and a systematic campaign to isolate Sarah while maintaining control. When Emma and Ethan visited Evan that night, their excitement over the hospital's play area temporarily eclipsed the grown-up concerns swirling around them. Jack watched his children interact, Emma demonstrating a new drawing technique to Evan, Ethan carefully organizing get-well cards on the bedside table, and felt a profound sense of rightness despite the circumstances. Later, after tucking the twins in at the Ronald McDonald house, Jack sat alone in the garden, finally allowing himself a moment of grief for the years stolen from him. First dates, first steps, first words, moments he could never reclaim. His phone chimed with a text from his lawyer. "Emergency custody hearing postponed. Judge wants to review new evidence. Keep focused on Evan, we're making progress." Jack looked up at the stars, the same stars that had watched over his children for 5 years without him, with unexpected allies rallying to his side and the truth. Slowly emerging from shadow, he felt something he hadn't dared embrace until now. Hope. "All clear for takeoff," Jack called out, pushing Evan's wheelchair down the hospital corridor at a controlled but exciting pace. After 2 weeks in Denver, including a successful, minimally invasive procedure to repair one of his heart valves, Evan was finally going home. Emma and Ethan flanked the wheelchair like honor guards, occasionally racing ahead only to circle back, their energy boundless after the hospital confinement. The cardiac team had pronounced Evan's prognosis excellent with proper medication and follow-up care. The shadows under Jack's eyes spoke of sleepless nights, but his smile reflected pure joy. The month since finding the triplets had transformed Jack's life completely. Thompson Technologies now had a robust remote work policy, with Jack's leadership team stepping up admirably. His Seattle penthouse was on the market, and contractors were finishing renovations at the Montana farmhouse, creating proper bedrooms for each child with design input from the triplets themselves. "I want stars on my ceiling," Evan had instructed from his hospital bed, sketching elaborate constellations. Emma requested purple walls and bookshelves for her growing collection. Ethan, ever practical, asked only for a desk for important work and storage bins for his treasured rock collection. The drive back to Pine Creek took them through golden autumn landscapes. Jack glanced in the rearview mirror to see all 3 children dozing, their identical faces peaceful in sleep. He sometimes still caught himself marveling at them. These 3 perfect beings who carried his features blended with Sarah's. These children he'd created but hadn't known existed. Life at the farmhouse quickly settled into comfortable routines. Jack learned each child's preferences and quirks. Emma's insistence on cutting her sandwiches into triangles, Ethan's methodical approach to every task, Evan's habit of humming while he colored. Mornings began with breakfast together before remote school sessions coordinated with Pine Creek Elementary. Afternoons included outdoor exploration when weather permitted, and evenings featured reading sessions before bedtime. Jack's work calls were scheduled during quiet times, often with a child or two curled beside him, drawing or reading while he discussed software developments or market expansions. His team had grown accustomed to occasional interruptions from small voices asking important questions about snacks or lost toys. The most unexpected new tradition began one Sunday when Emma asked about visiting Mommy's special place. Jack drove them to the small cemetery where Sarah was buried, bringing wildflowers the children had picked from the farmhouse garden. "We used to bring flowers every Sunday," Ethan explained, as they approached the simple headstone. Jack stood back, giving the triplets space for their familiar ritual. Emma arranged the flowers carefully, Ethan straightened a small stone angel placed beside the grave, and Evan patted the headstone gently, as if comforting it. When they stepped back, Jack moved forward, kneeling before the marker that bore the name of the woman he'd once loved, the mother of his children. "I wish things had been different," he said softly. "I wish we'd had our chance. But I promise you, Sarah, they'll have all the love both of us would have given them." That evening he found Emma sitting alone on the porch swing, her small face turned upward toward the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. "Is Mommy and a star watching us?" she asked as Jack joined her. He considered the question carefully, respecting both Emma's need for comfort and her intelligence. "I think people we love are always watching over us even when we can't see them. Your mom loved you 3 more than anything." Emma nodded, processing this. "She would be happy we found you," she decided with a child's certainty. "She told us our daddy was building important things, but he would come find us someday." Jack wrapped an arm around her small shoulders, watching as Ethan and Evan emerged from the house to join them on the porch. The 4 of them sat together as darkness fell completely, the Montana sky unveiling its tapestry of stars. No urgent emails demanded responses, no corporate crises required intervention. Instead, Jack Thompson, once defined entirely by his business accomplishments, found himself completely present, building something far more valuable than he ever had before: a family. The official custody hearing was set for Monday. Jack was at the kitchen table reviewing documents with his lawyer, Catherine Mills, when the doorbell rang. The triplets looked up from their homework at the island counter, their pencils pausing mid-sentence. "I'll get it," Jack said, squeezing Catherine's shoulder as he passed. A court officer stood on the porch, his expression professionally neutral as he handed Jack a thick envelope. "You've been served, Mr. Thompson." Inside was Melissa's formal petition for custody with supporting affidavits that painted Jack as a workaholic tech CEO playing temporary father out of guilt. The document specifically cited Evan's medical emergency as evidence of Jack's inability to provide proper care, claiming Melissa's years of experience with the children's specific needs made her the more suitable guardian. Jack maintained a calm expression as he returned to the kitchen, not wanting to alarm the triplets. "Why don't you 3 go feed the chickens?" he suggested, referring to the small flock they'd acquired last week. Once the children were outside, Jack spread the documents before Catherine. "She's using Evan's condition against me." Catherine scanned the petition, her lips thinning. "These allegations are misleading at best. She's insinuating you were negligent when in reality, getting him to Denver specialists likely saved his life. She also claims my recent acquisition of rural property demonstrates unstable planning," Jack noted bitterly, as if providing a home with space to grow is somehow negative. Catherine made careful notes. "Judge Parker has a reputation for seeing through manipulation, and our evidence about Melissa's interference with medical appointments will undermine her credibility." That evening, after the triplets were in bed, Jack's phone chimed with a notification. His security system had captured Melissa approaching Sarah's house, the house Jack was still maintaining while deciding whether to sell or rent it. She used a key to enter, emerging 20 minutes later with several file boxes. Jack immediately called Catherine. "She's removing documents from Sarah's house, medical records possibly. I'll file for an emergency preservation order first thing tomorrow," Catherine promised, "and add spoliation of evidence to our counter-filing." The next morning, as Jack helped Evan with his math homework, the boy suddenly looked up with worried eyes. "Aunt Melissa says you'll get tired of playing daddy." Jack set down the pencil, giving Evan his full attention. "Is that something you're worried about?" Evan nodded, his lower lip trembling slightly. "Come here," Jack said gently, lifting Evan onto his lap despite the boy being almost too big for such treatment. "I'm not playing anything. I'm your dad. Not just for now, but forever. I missed the first 5 years of your lives because I didn't know about you. But nothing will make me miss another day. Promise?" Evan's voice was small but demanding. "I promise," Jack said firmly. And Thompson men always keep their promises. Evan seemed satisfied, returning to his multiplication problems with renewed focus. Later that day, Dr. Winters called with concerning news. Melissa accessed Evan's medical records using Sarah's patient portal credentials yesterday. She specifically downloaded records of canceled specialist appointments. Jack's lawyer added this to their growing file of Melissa's questionable actions. The evidence was mounting, but Jack still felt uneasy. Melissa had been part of the children's lives since birth. Her claims of devotion, while complicated by her manipulation, weren't entirely false. The triplets were playing in the yard when Jack received another call, this one from Michael in Seattle. "Jack, we found something interesting in Sarah's financial records. There were regular monthly deposits to her account that don't correspond with her nursing salary. They match the exact amount of the support checks you sent to your old shared address after she disappeared. Checks that were cashed but that Sarah apparently never received." "Melissa," Jack concluded, the pieces falling into place. "She intercepted my support payments but led Sarah to believe I'd abandoned them financially." That night, Jack sat on the porch long after the children were asleep, staring at the star-filled Montana sky. The custody hearing loomed just days away. Everything he cared about now, these 3 small lives that had become his world, hung in the balance of a judge's decision. His phone lit up with a text from Catherine. "Judge issued order, protecting all documents. Melissa prohibited from removing anything else from Sarah's house. First victory." Jack took a deep breath of the crisp autumn air. The battle for his children was just beginning, but for the first time since receiving the custody petition, he allowed himself to feel genuine hope. Jack's dining room had transformed into a war room. Evidence boxes lined one wall, his laptop displayed a detailed timeline of events, and Catherine paced while speaking on the phone with expert witnesses. 4 days remained until the custody hearing. "We've secured testimony from Evan's cardiologists in Denver," Catherine reported, ending her call. "They'll confirm that your decision to seek specialized care was not only appropriate, but necessary." Jack nodded, reviewing affidavits from the triplets' teachers, neighbors, and the pediatrician, who'd examined all 3 children last week. Each document attested to the children's well-being under his care and their obvious attachment to him. "What about the triplets themselves?" Jack asked. "Will they need to testify?" Catherine's expression softened. "Judge Parker prefers to interview children in her chambers away from parental pressure. She'll likely ask them simple questions about their daily lives with you and with Melissa." The thought of his children being questioned at all made Jack's stomach clench. "They've been through enough already. Which is why we need to prepare them," Catherine advised. "Not coaching them on answers, but explaining the process so it's less intimidating." That afternoon, Jack gathered the triplets in the living room, explaining in age-appropriate terms what would happen at the courthouse. "The judge is like a referee," he said, sitting cross-legged on the floor with them. "Her job is to decide where you will live." "With you," Emma stated confidently. Jack smiled at her certainty while continuing carefully. "The judge might want to talk with you privately. She'll just ask about your life here and at Aunt Melissa's house." Ethan frowned. "Will we have to pick between you and Aunt Melissa?" "No," Jack assured him. "You just need to tell the truth about how you feel and what makes you happy or scared. The grown-ups will make the decisions." As the triplets dispersed to play, Jack received an unexpected call from Fred Wilson, the retired postmaster of Pine Creek. "Mr. Thompson, I hear you're trying to piece together what happened with your letters to Sarah Mitchell. I might have information that could help." The next morning, Fred met Jack at the local diner, bringing a small notebook filled with meticulous handwritten records. "I ran the post office here for 38 years before retiring last spring," he explained, adjusting his glasses. "Kept my own notes on irregularities. Small town, you notice patterns." He pointed to several entries from years past. Melissa Reynolds collected mail for her sister frequently, especially when Sarah was pregnant and after the babies came. Nothing unusual there, but I noted several times when she specifically asked about certified letters or packages from Seattle. Fred turned a page. "What caught my attention was when Sarah came in herself asking about letters she was expecting from you. I told her nothing had arrived, but Melissa had already collected that day's mail. Sarah seemed confused, said she'd expected something important. Jack's investigator later confirmed that Fred's records aligned perfectly with dates when Jack had sent certified letters to Sarah, letters that were signed for but apparently never reached her. Another break came when Catherine located Melissa's former assistant, Kelly Diaz, who had worked for her at the local school district office. "Ms. Reynolds frequently had me handle personal errands," Kelly stated in her sworn affidavit. "Several times she instructed me to intercept correspondence between Sarah Mitchell and various medical offices. I was told to reschedule appointments, always citing insurance issues. I only realized something was wrong when I overheard Ms. Reynolds telling Sarah that a specialist had canceled on them, when I knew she had canceled the appointment herself." The evidence continued mounting. Bank records showing deposits to Sarah's account that matched Jack's support checks. Phone records revealing that Melissa had called Jack's old number immediately after disconnected messages were left for Sarah, and medical referrals that never reached their intended specialists. 2. Days before the hearing, Jack sat with the triplets in their newly completed bedrooms, helping them choose outfits for court. As Evan carefully selected his favorite blue sweater, "because it has a pocket for my lucky rock," Jack realized how completely these three children had rewired his heart. For 15 years, he had defined himself by what he built: companies, technologies, fortunes. Now watching Emma twirl in her chosen dress while Ethan solemnly polished his dress shoes, Jack understood that nothing he had ever created compared to the role he was fighting for now. "Dad. We'll be okay, right?" Evan asked quietly, sensing Jack's tension. Jack pulled him into a gentle hug. "We'll be better than okay," he promised. "We'll be together." The Pine Creek County Courthouse stood solid and imposing against the morning sky, its brick facade weathered by decades of Montana seasons. Jack adjusted Evan's tie, smoothed Emma's hair, and straightened Ethan's collar before kneeling to their level. "Remember what we talked about," he said gently. "Just tell the truth. I love you no matter what happens today." The courtroom was more crowded than Jack had expected. Beyond the legal team, several Pine Creek residents had come to observe: Mrs. Winters, Principal Matthews, Claire Bennett, and others who had provided statements supporting Jack's case. Judge Parker, a stern-faced woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and penetrating eyes, called the court to order precisely at 9 a.m. When she requested to meet with the triplets first, Jack gave them reassuring smiles as they followed a court officer to the judge's chambers. Melissa sat at the opposing table, perfectly groomed in a conservative navy dress, projecting an image of composed stability. Her lawyer, a sharp-featured man with an expensive suit and calculated smile, arranged his documents with practiced precision. "Your Honor," he began once the children were gone, "Ms. Reynolds has been a constant, loving presence in these children's lives since birth. Mr. Thompson, while biologically related, was entirely absent for 5 years." "An absence," Catherine immediately countered, "that our evidence will prove was deliberately engineered by Ms. Reynolds through a systematic campaign of interference and deception." Judge Parker listened impassively as Melissa's lawyer portrayed Jack as a workaholic tech executive who only sought custody out of guilt or obligation. "Ms. Reynolds has structured her entire life around these children's welfare," he argued. "Mr. Thompson is still adjusting his busy schedule to accommodate them." When Catherine presented their timeline of Melissa's interference, complete with Fred Wilson's postal records, Kelly Diaz's affidavit about canceled medical appointments, and the financials showing Jack's intercepted support payments, Melissa's composed facade began to crack. "Ms. Reynolds," Judge Parker asked directly, "did you intercept correspondence between Mr. Thompson and your sister?" Melissa's eyes darted. To her lawyer, "I was protecting Sarah," she finally responded. "He would have disappointed her again. She deserved better." "Better than knowing the father of her children was sending child support? Better than specialized medical care for Evan?" Catherine pressed. The most damning evidence came from Michael, who had forensically recovered deleted emails from Sarah's laptop. Drafts addressed to Jack explained her pregnancy and asked why he had rejected her and the babies. Others questioned why specialists kept canceling Evan's appointments despite referrals being sent. Your Honor, Catherine concluded, Melissa Reynolds systematically isolated her sister, intercepted communications, manipulated medical care, and deprived these children of their father's presence and financial support, all while convincing Sarah she had been abandoned. The judge's chamber's door opened and the triplets returned, their faces solemn but calm. Judge Parker announced a brief recess before taking testimony from character witnesses. In the courthouse hallway, Jack crouched beside his children. You did great, he assured them, though he had no idea what they had said. Are you okay? Emma nodded. The judge asked if we're happy with you. We said yes. She asked if we ever feel scared. Evan added quietly. I said only when I thought you might leave like Mommy did. Jack's throat tightened. And what did you tell her? That you promised Thompson men always keep their promises, Evan replied, with perfect seriousness. And you promised to stay. When court resumed, testimony came from those who had witnessed both Sarah's life and Jack's emerging relationship with the triplets. Dr. Winters described Evan's improved health under Jack's care. Principal Matthews noted the children's academic and social progress since Jack's arrival. Claire Bennett recounted Sarah's cryptic comments about Melissa stealing her chance at happiness. The moment the case turned came unexpectedly. Under Henri, Catherine's cross-examination, Melissa finally broke down. She had everything, Melissa cried, her voice rising with years of resentment. The looks, our parents' love, and then 3 perfect babies when I couldn't have even one. He didn't deserve them. He didn't earn them like I did. A stunned silence fell over the courtroom. In that unguarded moment, Melissa had revealed what truly motivated her. Not the children's welfare, but her own sense of entitlement and jealousy. Judge Parker's decision came swiftly. Primary custody was awarded to Jack, with Melissa granted limited supervised visitation, contingent upon completion of counseling. The triplets would remain in the stable environment Jack had created, with continued access to Evan's medical team in Denver. Outside the courthouse, under a clear Montana sky, Emma slipped her hand into Jack's. Ethan stood tall at his other side, while Evan rode piggyback on his shoulders. Home? Jack asked simply. 3 identical voices answered as one. Home. Autumn gave way to winter, and the farmhouse transformed with the seasons. Jack filed the paperwork to officially change the triplets' last name to Thompson, a moment marked with a small celebration and homemade cake. Does this mean we're really yours forever? Emma asked, her face smeared with chocolate frosting. You were always mine, Jack answered, his voice catching. The papers just make it official for everyone else. The renovation of the farmhouse continued through the snowy months. Each triplet's bedroom reflected their emerging personalities. Evan's ceiling now displayed glow-in-the-dark constellations that matched real star patterns. Emma's bookshelves overflowed with stories and art supplies. Ethan's organized space featured collections of rocks, feathers, and other natural treasures. In January, Evan underwent his final corrective procedure. Jack slept in the hospital chair, each night working remotely during the day while never leaving his son's side. When the cardiologist pronounced Evan's heart fully repaired, with an excellent prognosis for a normal life, Jack celebrated by taking all 3 children sledding down the gentle hills behind their home. Healing came in other forms too. The triplets began weekly sessions with a child psychologist who specialized in grief and family transitions. Jack joined them often, learning to navigate the complex emotions of children who had lost their mother and were adjusting to a father they were still getting to know. Ethan's breakthrough came during a snowstorm in February. As wind howled outside their snug farmhouse, he approached Jack with uncharacteristic hesitation. I was mean when you first found us, he confessed, his small face serious. I didn't want to like you because I was scared. Scared of what? Jack asked gently. That if I loved you, you might go away like Mom did. Ethan's voice trembled. But you didn't go, even when Evan got sick and Aunt Melissa was mean. Jack pulled him close. I'm not going anywhere, Ethan. Ever. For the first time, Ethan initiated a hug, his small arms wrapped tightly around Jack's neck. The most surprising development came in early spring. Melissa, who had been regularly attending therapy as ordered by the court, sent a handwritten letter. In it, she apologized for her actions, explaining how grief over her infertility and jealousy of Sarah had twisted her into someone she no longer recognized. Jack debated whether to respond, finally deciding that healing required truth rather than continued resentment. He arranged a carefully supervised visit at a neutral location. Melissa arrived without her usual polished armor, visibly nervous but genuinely attempting to rebuild a healthy relationship with her niece and nephews. They need family connections, Jack told his lawyer when explaining his decision. Sarah would have wanted them to know her sister, the real Melissa, not the one who was consumed by jealousy. As winter's grip loosened and the first green shoots appeared on the farmhouse property, Jack found himself planning a garden with the triplets. Not just for the coming season, but for years ahead. Thompson Technologies continued to thrive under his more balanced leadership, but his greatest creation was the home he was building with 3 children who had found him on a dusty road less than a year before. 1 year to the day after Jack found the triplets on that dusty Montana road, the Thompson family gathered in the blooming garden behind their farmhouse. The morning sun cast golden light across the property they now all called home, warming the spring air as Jack adjusted. A small plaque on a newly planted cherry tree. "Today is a special anniversary," he explained to the triplets, now 6 years old and thriving. "It's been exactly 1 year since we found each other." "Since we found you," Emma corrected with her characteristic confidence. "We did all the walking." Jack smiled, acknowledging the truth of this. "And to celebrate, I thought we could do something to remember your mom." This was her favorite kind of tree. The children helped pat soil around the sapling's base, each adding a small memento to the fresh earth. A painted stone from Emma, a carefully folded paper bird from Evan, and a polished pine cone from Ethan. Jack had learned that grief needed space to breathe, and creating rituals like this helped the triplets process their loss while embracing their new life. After the tree planting, Jack presented each child with a scrapbook he had spent months creating. Inside were photographs of Sarah from college, stories she had written, and memories shared by those who had known her. The final pages contained photographs from the past year, their first year as a family with Jack. "This way, you'll always remember her," Jack said softly, "and how much she loved you." That afternoon, while the children played with the puppy they had recently adopted from the local shelter, Jack retrieved a wooden chest from Sarah's house, which they still maintained as a rental property. He had been systematically sorting through her belongings, preserving meaningful items for the triplets' future. Inside the chest, beneath a stack of childhood mementos, Jack discovered an envelope he hadn't seen before. His name was written on the front in Sarah's familiar handwriting, the paper slightly yellowed with age. The date in the corner indicated she had written it just 3 weeks before her accident. With trembling hands, Jack opened the letter and began to read. "Dear Jack, if you're reading this, I've finally found the courage to send it. For years, I believed you had chosen not to be part of our children's lives. I've recently discovered this may not be true. I found letters I wrote to you hidden in Melissa's guest room. Letters that never reached you. I don't know yet what this means or what happened between us, but I need to believe the Jack I knew, the man I loved, would never have abandoned his children if he knew they existed. Our triplets are extraordinary. Ethan has your determination and thoughtful nature. Emma carries your confidence and creativity. Evan has your gentle heart and curiosity. They ask about you often, and I've only ever told them that their father is a good man who builds important things that help people. I don't know if reconciliation is possible after so many years and so much pain, but our children deserve to know their father, and you deserve to know them. If there's any chance that you were as much a victim of circumstance as I was, then perhaps we can find a way forward, not for us, but for Ethan, Emma, and Evan. If nothing else, know that they are the best of both of us, and that despite everything, I never stopped believing that someday we would be a complete family. Sarah." Tears blurred Jack's vision as he finished reading. Sarah had discovered the truth and planned to find him. only to have fate intervene in the cruelest way. That evening, as the spring sunset painted the Montana sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Jack sat on the porch swing with the triplets crowded around him. Together they created a time capsule, filling a waterproof container with photographs, small treasures, and Sarah's letter. "When you turn 18, Jack explained as they buried the capsule beneath the cherry tree, "we'll dig this up together and remember this time in our lives." As darkness fell, the family returned to the warmth of their home. Jack watched his children, his and Sarah's children, laughing as they prepared for bed, each carrying elements of both their parents in their faces, their mannerisms, their spirits. In finding them, Jack had not only discovered fatherhood, he had recovered a part of Sarah that would live on through the extraordinary children they had created together. Though she was gone, her legacy endured in the family that had, finally, despite all odds, found its way home to each other.